Today I'd like to talk about something that a lot of people have on their minds, and that's animal husbandry, and ways that you can contribute to advocating for positive animal husbandry. I'm going to first give you a little tour of where all that noise is coming from. We have 13 hens and 1 rooster in this front stall. Now, typically our chickens go outside first thing in the morning. Today I have them closed in because it's raining outside. The weather in Ontario, Canada is becoming quite miserable. Our beautiful autumn leaves have mostly fallen, and it's getting rainy. We are also supposed to get snow tonight for the first time this year. Well, hello. So that celebration that you heard of these hens clucking, yeah, is a celebration of these eggs that were just laid. So in the animal factory farming of chickens, chickens in Canada are currently housed in what are called battery cages. So that's cages that house 1 or just a couple of chickens to help prevent chickens from hurting each other. So the theory behind this is meant for protecting chickens from injuries, even from cannibalism. However, when chickens are housed with an appropriate space and with appropriate activities for them, appropriate water, food sources, these are all my eggs for today so far. So when chickens are housed properly, I've had the experience of them all getting along quite well and harmoniously. And as you heard at the very beginning of the video, even celebrating with each other on the arrival of a freshly laid egg. I'll just peek in here and see if we have an egg in there yet. No more in there yet. This stall area is quite adequate for the 14 chickens that I house here, given that most of the time they do go outside in that run out there. So, someone had asked me about keeping chickens through the long Canadian winters, which can become quite cold. Without having prepared things in advance, I'll show you what we use to help keep our chickens comfortable through the cold Canadian winters. This is extension cords, and I have these extension cords so that I can provide the chickens with heated water. And for the heated water, yes, this is a mess, but it's a mess that I know where everything is. We just use dog bowls. That's the kind that I buy. So we have one for each of the chicken areas. It doesn't make the water hot. It just makes it kind of very lukewarm. And then the other thing we have is we have a heat lamp. So this is the heat lamp, and it has this bulb, which is a safer type of light, the red light. And we hang that. Some people say not to hang lights in your chicken coops because then the chickens, when they go outside, they'll be not accustomed to the cold air. So what we do is we hang the heat lamp inside. We open the door so the chickens can go in or out as they choose, and that way they still have access to the heat lamp at all times in the winter. Now, the stall of hens that I just showed you is an ideal setup for chickens. However, in our barn, we also have, on our farm, we have 4 roosters. We have 1 rooster with the red hen flock, 1 rooster with the flock of silkies that we have. Of course, we have a barn cat, an excellent little hunter. Lexi, hi. And then we have 2 extra roosters. We incubated the eggs that these 2 came from ourselves. Hi, Snoopy. And we've had these 2 that usually free range on our farm in the daytime. So in the winter, they're able to free range all day, just as long as it's not bitter cold or snowing. Silky chickens don't have feathers with water repellent like regular chickens. So these 2 silkies unfortunately can't go outside when it's raining or snowing because they won't be able to get dry, and therefore they'll freeze to death. They'll get hypothermia. So this cage that you see here, with these 2 roosters that are used to free ranging, they really find this cage to be inadequate. This is a paw hut that I had bought used, and this whole enclosure is completely inappropriate for people that don't have a barn to put it into for the winter. So the wood is a very thin, very cheap type of wood. The panels actually have little gaps that the air and light can be seen through. And so chickens would freeze to death and die or be exceptionally uncomfortable in this house in the winter if it's not inside of a barn with straw bedding. So for rainy days where there's precipitation like snow, these 2 roosters have to stay inside this pen. They can access the coop part of it as well. So to make them more comfortable, right now I have hay on the bottom, and for the winter I will buy some straw so that they have nice straw bedding under there for the daytime, and to help reduce the cold from the floor from rising up to the coop as well at nighttime. So what's the point of me talking about these caged animals? Well, the point is, these 2 roosters, I do keep them in this in the winter and when it's raining to keep them from dying, from getting hypothermia. And I feel very guilty about it. And a lot of people would look at this cage and the fact that these 2 roosters are unhappy and say, that is very cruel. I think it's slightly cruel. However, if you buy eggs from the store, you've got to remember that there really aren't many roosters that these factory farms are housing. And that's because the roosters are killed at birth. They're either gassed or they're thrown into a machine that shreds them alive. So we keep our roosters. We did have 5 extra roosters this year that I put ads for online, and I managed to rehome all 5 as livestock guardians and for breeding. So that's how I managed our excess roosters. That's not how they're managed in factory farms. Another point to make is these chickens, I feel bad with them in this area, yet in Canada, we currently still allow battery cages for chickens, which means that several chickens could be kept in a cage this size, so just this little rectangle could have probably about 4 hens, and that is the only area that they would have. So if you look at this and you think that's kind of inadequate housing, which I would agree, as a long-term solution, if they weren't free rangers, this is completely inadequate for chickens. But on the other hand, if you're eating eggs from the store, you're eating eggs from chickens that are housed in battery cages, if you live in Canada. And if you're thinking, well, they must be humane if Canada allows them, then you would be wrong again. Because battery cages have been banned, but that doesn't take effect until I believe it's 2030 or 2031. And the reason for that is simply that they don't want to cause, the government of Canada doesn't want to cause financial hardship for farmers. So they're allowing cruelty to these chickens to continue until alternative housing solutions have time to be implemented. Now, I've kind of jumped from topic to topic today. That is the way I tend to be when I'm yapping away. But the point of this video is just to get you thinking about how animals are kept, how you can make a difference. If you live in an area where there are farms with stands selling eggs, please support those stands. Even if prices are a little bit more expensive, you have to think about the quality of life that these animals are having on real farms instead of factory farms. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is to substitute chicken, cut down on the amount of eggs and chicken that you're eating. You can still have it, but just have it in moderation. And if you'd like to learn more about proper animal husbandry and ways that you can reduce your impact on chickens and other animals, then please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.